Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Greyscalegorilla podcast. We're on episode 49, one away from 50. Let's hear it. Come on.
Woo! Greyscalegorilla is my hip hop name, by the way.
I like that. Greyscalegorilla in the house. He's the Greyscalegorilla. That's actually
right.
Not bad.
That's pretty good.
It does kind of work, actually.
I need to get the URL now.
Yep, I think that's a definite must. Anyway, welcome back to another episode. Super Bowl week. Just had the Super Bowl yesterday. Coming down off of that, all of the disappointed faces across America, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 states. But what'd you guys think of the game? Were you happy with the outcome, or were you disappointed?
I learned almost everything I know about football the day of Super Bowl. And I kind of try to get the story from all my family and like who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, who's the underdogs. And I usually go with the underdogs. So I was going for the Atlanta. I like their color too. They had a cool color. And I was like, wow, this is going their way. And we watched the end of it, and obviously it did not go their way. But man, you got to appreciate like such a dominating team. Like I know most of America hates like that team for whatever reason, but wow, like I love when somebody's that good at something where they could just go, oh yeah, no, that's cool.
Now we'll play.
We're 28 down or whatever they were, and then they just come back. So I appreciate that spectacle. I always like the commercials. I always like the halftime show. I don't know. That's a day I like, kind of being a normal and watching the Super Bowl. I enjoy it.
For me, and I'm not doing this to like boost like nerdiness cred or anything. In most years, I do kind of have an awareness of it, and I'll check it out a little bit here or there, go to a party. I literally forgot it was Super Bowl Sunday until Nick and Chad brought it up a little earlier today. I did not know, and I don't even know who played in it. I haven't seen any of the commercials. So usually I do pay a little bit of attention, and this year I just missed it. My brothers and I found a new video game, and we were playing it like all day yesterday.
Well, I tweeted this last night, but I find that the Super Bowl is always a good day when I'm around friends and family that don't know what I do for a living to point at the TV and say, that's what I do. And kind of like sports graphics is always the easiest thing to describe to like 3D design. That isn't a lot of times when you say Pixar 3D, it's like a Pixar movie and you're like, no, it's not quite that, but it is stuff that you've seen, I promise. And Super Bowl is like one of the best days to do that because everyone's in the same room and you get to actually point at a big, slow, like rotating NFL logo and go right there. That's it.
Yeah. I think, speaking of like looking at stuff, like a lot of people tune in, that don't even watch football. They just want to see the commercials because that's like become this thing unto itself. And a lot of motion design, visual effects, animation in these commercials. And I'm not seeing there's not like a breakout anymore. Like I feel like back in the day there would be like a breakout spot that you were like, something that like just took everybody by storm and everybody was talking about it. And I just feel like those days are like getting I don't know, like one of the things that kind of caught me off guard, and I'm not going to talk about this too long because I don't want to take up too much time, but the car brand Alfa Romeo was a huge sponsor of the game. And I'm like thinking to myself, number one, what the hell is an Alfa Romeo? Number two, where would I even go to get one if I wanted one? Like, why the hell are they on the Super Bowl? It made no sense to me. And so if anybody has an answer to that, hit me in the comments because I'm struggling to understand why these people were even involved. And maybe the media buy was like so expensive that they had to like, get some other car company to sponsor the halftime show. I think it was like Pepsi and this car company that did it or something. I don't know. But anyway,
they were pretty big.
I'm even more confused in general when you just get those big commercials from ComEd. And it's like, why is ComEd advertising? Like what? Like they're advertising themselves just as a company. They're not like, hey, buy our something. They're like, hey, we're a company and we do things in the world.
Those are the we want to remind people that we exist, kind of.
Yeah, they're showing off their nice things that they do, so you don't hate them as much when you
like we just had an oil spill, but like here are some ponies.
You didn't watch it, but there was a big oil company type commercial. It was like total propaganda.
See, a lot of that stuff is actually forced too, like not forced, but it's subsidized by the commercials. So like this is something I didn't know until I started working in commercial work, that PSAs are a part of commercial buy. In other words, when you're buying commercial time, a percentage of your commercial time that you're buying is also going toward a PSA that you're all pitching in for, to buy the time to put a non-commercial commercial in front of people. So if, for instance, like don't do drugs, those kind of things, those commercials were paid for by actual advertisers, and it's kind of part of their it's almost like a tariff.
It's like the deal.
Yeah,
I don't think they do that at the Super Bowl, though. I don't think they have PSAs.
I doubt that.
Yeah, no,
I mean, that would be the most expensive PSA ever.
Well, but for those things where you're looking at them like, how did they afford that? I think there's always those kind of deals going on where there's a percentage of your budget has to be a part of PSAs or getting the word out about this or that. And
sure. I doubt that's the case with ExxonMobil, though. Like the ExxonMobil commercial wasn't paid for by subsidies. Well, actually, let me take that back. It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think with Exxon and those bigger brands, it's more of it's a way to be it's a way for people to maybe talk about their brand without hating it. Like instead of like Comcast, think about Comcast, like it's so much negative stuff, and they only get mentioned when it's when something wrong happens. So it's their like time of year where they get to go like, we also do these nice things too, guys.
That's true. That's true. Well, and then last week we also had, I did a tutorial last week. I think it was me last week, wasn't it? Right? The takes tutorial.
Was that last week? Yeah. What's going on with Greyscalegorilla this
so
week?
Let's talk about Greyscalegorilla. What's going on with us? So we did the takes tutorial, went over really well. Got a lot of people asking to follow it up with some stuff about tokens and layers. So I'll probably do one of those. But this week's tutorial, we've got Chris Schmidt's going to be talking all about soft body dynamics.
Soft bodies.
You want to give us the elevator pitch for this tutorial that's going to be coming out on Wednesday? Or sorry,
sure.
Tuesday.
No, tomorrow. Yeah, Tuesday.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
No, it's going to be all about maybe trying to get a little bit more intuitive with your soft body control. So if you want to make something look like Jello, then here's the setting. Like, I want it to be more Jello-like. Well, maybe you should change these two settings then, and really kind of get it. And there's only like 4 settings, and those are like the important ones. Maybe 5, but everybody knows what stiffness does. So
I really want to get in touch with my soft body side.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's really what February is all about.
That could have either gone in a really awkward way, or
it didn't though.
A sweet way. So I could have played it both ways. I chose the sweet way.
Oh, that's very nice.
Next time I'll do the dirty way. Anyway, so yeah, the tutorial's coming out. Also next week, kind of the big news, I guess, is our 50th podcast. 50th podcast, which is kind of crazy because how many were in this format? Like 20, you guys said?
Yeah, I think this is 20 or 21.
So 20 or 21 in this format, and that's pretty good too. I mean, that's a hefty sum right there, and so we're going to celebrate that by we've never done this before, but we're going to do the podcast live. We're doing it live next week. And it's going to be the same thing, only you can watch us on YouTube and ask us questions and, throw virtual tomatoes at us if you want. And it'll be fun. And that's going to happen next Monday, a week from today. Today's the 6th of February. So that would be February. I'm look at my calendar here. So February 13th. At around, what time do we usually go on? Like noon, I'd say?
Yeah, around noon Central, which is 6 a.m. GMT.
Oh, that's early. Wow. So you got to really want this if you're going to tune in. And the good thing is that you can, tune in on your phone, on your computer. While you're working, while you're commuting, if you want to check us out live and ask some questions, we'll be here. It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to test this out and see how it goes. If it works out, if the live thing turns into something that we dig, then we might do it more on like special events, like when we go to NAB or SIGGRAPH, or we're covering something and we're all in a different location and we want to make something kind of fun and interactive. We might try to do this. So it'll be a little bit of test. Hopefully it'll work out.
We're also doing some questions this week too, right?
That's right. Yeah, you may have noticed, and maybe not. I right before the show, when I got up this morning, I started asking people to send us questions. I want you to ask us anything you want. No question is off limits, and we'll try to get to them in today's show as kind of a precursor to what we're going to be doing next week on the anniversary show. So if you saw that and you submitted a question, we're going to be answering these questions for you today. And then if you are listening at home and you're like, man, I didn't know they were going to answer questions, don't worry. Tune into the anniversary show next week. Do it live. Ask us the questions live. And bring your questions. It could be about anything. It could be about the business side, the technical side. It could be about Legos. It could be about movies. It doesn't matter.
Your favorite deodorant brand. Who knows?
There you go.
Good one.
Hey, I'm open to anything. Open to anything. Let's see. Did I cover everything in news? I think I did. We don't have anything else going on. For everyone that for everybody in the last 2 weeks that ordered a shirt from us, thank you very much. The shirts were a big hit. Everybody dug them. They by the time you hear this, they'll probably be gone again. So you'll have to wait till next time to get another shirt. But everybody that got one, thank you very much. And we will see you at the events. We want to see pictures of you wearing the shirt. So if you go to a meetup or something and you see somebody with a shirt, take a picture, send it to us, tag us. So with that, you guys ready to start answering some of these questions?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Right. We should do them kind of whatever pace happens, and at the end do a lightning round.
Ooh.
I don't even know if I don't know if I have that many. The lightning round might be 2 questions.
All
right. Okay, so this one I guess is for the group, and this one is Hadrian on Twitter. Hadrian at Hadrian_Ledoux wants to know. I have one question. Would GSG ever consider doing tutorials on another software other than Cinema 4D? Houdini would be great. So what are your guys' thoughts on GSG covering other pieces of software? We already kind of do that, don't we? Don't already have some After Effects stuff?
Yeah, that was from the beginning, though. It always had After Effects as well. I want to hear Nick answer first, I guess. He's the primary guy and answer this.
Yeah, let's get Nick on the hot seat.
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. When it was just me on the site, it was up to my knowledge, really. It was, I don't know Houdini. People would ask me for Max tutorials, or what was a popular one was when node-based compositing started popping up more and more, Nuke and what's the one I'm thinking of, Fusion, stuff like that. People were asking about that, and while I thought it was a good idea to teach that, it wasn't something I was into, and it wasn't something I could help with, so it just didn't get done. Now that we have someone like Chad Ashley around, who's actually played with so much different software over the years, I think the answer, for me at least, is whatever we think is going to help a motion designer make better work, that we should try to at least open the gate to that piece of software. If we think it's an important part of someone's future to learn, I think it's an interesting thing to play with. So I know, Chad, you've been interested in Houdini, and as you play with it and as you learn it, if you're going to go down that route, I could totally see that stuff popping up, along with more stuff from like After Effects, and you've used Nuke and stuff as well too, right, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, that question came about, I think, because I was tweeting about the Houdini 16, I think, is the version they're up to, I believe. Let me just check that real quick. And I watched their new feature video, and I was very impressed with the with what's happening. It might be, maybe it's 17. Oh God, is it 17? Holy cow! It might be one of those two. Anyway, I'm not. Listen, I don't know Houdini. I've never opened it up. I think it's really amazing what Man vs. Machine does with it. When I see any of their behind the scenes stuff that Simon guy does, I'm just always like, oh my God, that's insane. And for years, Houdini kind of was on the sidelines as like an effects tool, and it was always some high-end black box scary thing that only the smartest of the smart people learned. And I think it's starting to work its way into motion design because of its procedural nature. I think a lot of artists are looking for a way to do abstract art procedurally. And for a long time, I think Cinema 4D provided enough of a canvas to be able to do that. And I think as artists get good, like Simon probably did everything he could do with MoGraph and was like, I have this idea. I don't know. I can't do it in this program. I got to try something else. So you got all these new motion designers that are kind of dipping their toe into Houdini because of that. And the fact that it can do just about anything you can put your mind to is really, it's intriguing to me. Now, for us to teach it, I don't know it. And to be honest, like I'm still learning Cinema 4D. I'm just about maybe a year and a half into that piece of software. So I'm in no place right now to like take on another one, especially as something as deep as that. I would like to see us teach it someday, maybe do an intro series with someone that really knows how to. What would be really rad is if somebody, because I don't see anybody doing this, like saying, here's a Cinema 4D artist's guide to Houdini.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, give me the one-to-ones. Like, this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. And just to kind of like, that would be a great thing. I think people would dig that. Other software, of course, I think we should, and I think we will start to branch out into like After Effects and node-based comping and stuff like that. But it just kind of comes down to, in my opinion, we're only so many people, you know, like for us to like do all these tutorials, it just takes a lot of time, and not only to teach other people, but for us to learn it and like feel comfortable enough.
Well, that's definitely a challenge. Like I've had so many people say, I think you would love Houdini, and it makes me want to tinker, and it has such good integration with Cinema 4D. But the challenge is for me, like I've always come at everything having been obsessed with it and like really like getting down deep and figuring out all the buttons and why they do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So to begin teaching something means I want to go into it already having knowing so much of it, like a very large percentage of it. So it's not, I don't think it's that hard to make a tutorial where you open it up and you go, oh, you do this and you drop a thing on it, you throw this texture on it, and then boom, it's done. Like you want to be able to kind of do anything and understand why. So I do plan to one day start tinkering around with Houdini, but that could be a while before I'm confident in it enough to start doing like advanced tutorials. But in the meantime, all these Houdini animations have been providing amazing content for Ask GSG of trying to recreate these effects in Cinema 4D and I look at it as like, well, that's clearly Houdini. Let's see what we can do.
See how close we could get. Well, I would say as a philosophy for Greyscalegorilla, I mean, it's been very Cinema 4D heavy for a reason, and that's because things like what Chris said too. It's like that's what we were obsessed with. That's what Chris and I knew the most about at the time, and that's also what a lot of people were looking to learn. So I think as the landscape changes with software, you know, motion design's always been changing. You know, software. It takes some time, but as the industry moves around, you could expect us to also learn and try to teach you stuff that we know. So that the goal is not to Cinema 4D all day, every day. The goal is to impart some sort of like motion design knowledge and fun into the community, and wherever that happens is where Greyscalegorilla will be, and wherever our passions are too. I mean, that's a big part of it. What we're into, and I've always thought it's like Chris said too. I've always thought the teacher has to be inherently like super interested in it before they make a good teacher. Anyway, it's really hard to have like an unpassionate, whatever that word is, teacher teach something. It's just boring. Everyone's been in that class where they're teaching it because they have to, not because they like it. And I definitely don't want to go learn a piece of software because that's where the market's going. I'd rather.
No, that sucks when that happens.
That sucks. But I'll say this, and this might be a little inside baseball. If it goes that direction, we'll find the people. And this is why people like Chris are around, because I knew that I had a limited view to Cinema 4D, and I had a limited palette to understanding Cinema 4D, and somebody like Chris knew every dang button. So I wanted him to join us and be a part of this. Same with Chad. You know, I saw that these renderers and all these other, you know, types of 3D rendering are a part of our world. And to have somebody like Chad around is so helpful for not only us to learn from Chad, but also you guys. So you could expect more of that. So as the market changes, as people shift around, we're gonna try and be there and just help. That's the goal.
Yeah, it's hard to find people that, like, if tomorrow we said we wanted to start having Houdini tutorials on the site, we would have to find somebody that kind of fits our style too of teaching. And it's not about finding somebody that knows the tool the best. They also have to know how to explain things in an easy to understand kind of way. So yeah, I think that, you know, that's something that I think a lot of people take for granted almost, because they just think that, like, oh, well, that person knows the software. They can show me what I need to know. Well, if they're not really good at explaining things and teaching, then it's really not going to be of much help.
I think everyone's been at least in a part of that where they go see somebody that they really like. And sometimes it's even a band. Like, think of a band you really like, and then you go see them and they're like, they're not that great live, but they're a really good band in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that happens too with a lot of designers. Like, a lot of people are super creative, but then when it comes to like them explaining how they're creative or why they do what they do, they're just like, I don't know, it just comes out. And that's not very helpful to a student. So I guess what I'm saying is, I'm just agreeing with you, Chad, is it's hard to find people that are passionate about what they do, that are really good at what they do, that could also explain it in a way that new people can understand it. So that's always something I focused on at Greyscalegorilla, is getting good people that are good at what they do, that are also, and this is the real key, good teachers that could share what they do and actually, bring it to you guys.
So here's a challenge for the audience listening. If you know anybody that is a Houdini expert, is a great teacher, and kind of seems like they would make a good fit, send them our way. We'll check them out. And if we think the tutorials are, fitting in line with what we want to do, then we'll start bringing that stuff to you. But let's move on. We have another question. This one is a slightly technical question. It is from Alicio Pace at SwanZ79 on Twitter, asking, how can I render X particles in Octane? He wants to know if X particles is supported in Octane. And I know you guys don't have Octane, so I'll just answer this one and get this one off the list. You can render X particles in Octane. It's not as deep as an integration as you have maybe like in Arnold or something like that. But you can actually apply an object tag in Octane to an emitter and have it replace that particle with a custom piece of geometry, or I think a couple different primitives, one of them being like a sphere. And then if you want to use trails or something like that, you can actually apply an Octane tag and tell it to treat the trails as hair, and then you'll get control, and it'll kind of like render out like hair or like little spindles and stuff. Other than that, there's not a lot of control. I think X particles you can tie into scale and rotation, maybe not even radius, but there's very limited integration, but there is some integration. Hope that helps you. There are much better resources for Octane and X particles than myself, but hopefully that answers that question. All right, a little bit of a bigger question here for the group here. Comes from excuse me, Rad Scientist wants to know, Teddy Rocksteady wants to know, I'm looking to make the transition from a 2D MoGraph After Effects artist to a Cinema 4D artist full time. Any advice on the business side as a freelancer? So this is somebody who's predominantly looks like they're doing After Effects and wants to transition into more of a sounds like a freelancer, but doing only Cinema 4D.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, the basics I would say, and something I always hear is put together the 3D work that you've been working on. This is assuming that you kind of know the 3D a little bit. If you're looking to learn the 3D, go to GreyscaleGorilla.com. Once you've done that, you put together all of your 3D work that you can do. Hopefully it doesn't just look like tutorials, but put your demo reel together and make it look like it's got 3D material on there, because you're going to get hired for the type of work that you do. So if you have a gigantic 2D portfolio and you have a client that says, I want you to make a video, and you show them a demo reel with a bunch of 2D, they're going to go, oh, I kind of like that one. Let's make something like that. If you have a reel with a whole bunch of 3D on there, then they're going to say, oh, I like that, and then move towards that. So I'd say it's all about like the demo reel and what you're kind of, what's facing the world. The more 3D you put in there, then the more 3D you'll get, and hopefully you can make a smooth transition from
Is there
2D.
any difference on the business side from being an After Effects freelancer to being a 3D freelancer? And I mean, like, not, I mean, obviously you're gonna, the tax thing is like, it's the same, you know, you're a freelancer, but is there a difference on how you should approach the business side, whether, because, and the reason I say this is because it's really a kind of a loaded question, because I already know the answer. I'm just curious what you guys think, because I think it's a bit different, because very rarely are you asked to bring your own gear, or it's kind of a given that you're going to show up. If you're going to be an on-site freelancer, it's a given that they're going to have a machine that has After Effects on it. Whereas if you're doing 3D, it's a little bit more gear dependent. Especially if you're asked to do Octane, or you're asked to do something like that, you have to kind of almost, do you buy your own gear and bring it? Do you, you know what I mean? Like, there's that whole thing, like, because this question is great, because it makes me think, like, as a bigger picture, there's freelancers that work from home, and then there's freelancers that work on site. And I think that it's much easier to be a 2D freelancer on site, and a little bit harder to be a 2D freelancer remotely, and then inverse that for 3D. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have more experience with that than I do, as far as bringing your own gear. And I think it's just about being clear with what your expectations are and how you're charging for that. But I also think when he says business, I think there's a couple different ways to approach it. I mean, I think the first one is exactly what Chris said, which is the business/marketing side of it. And that, to me, is sometimes the hardest part. Learning how to invoice and what to say, and some of the language is something you just kind of learn over time. But that idea of like marketing yourself differently is what I kind of got out of the question as well, which is, what do I say to people to let them know that I also want to do 3D stuff? And I think Chris nailed it, which is you have to show them what you're capable of before they'll ever pay you to do that work. So exactly, like, get your reel together, do pro bono work, do stuff for friends, do stuff, personal projects, take a client, take a client that trusts you, and pitch them a 3D thing, and have, work with them to get your reel up. And you'll never get hired for stuff that you didn't do already. And you have to show that. Point. So what you might want to do is even think about your website and about the marketing that you have, and put the 3D tab above the After Effects tab, and start pushing that side of your I say website, like that dates me, like people still go to websites anymore, but
yeah, people have a website.
Well,
yeah.
I know. I think that
you know what I mean. Like, think about getting the word out. It's up to you to get the message that you're changing, and you have these new capabilities.
Yeah,
sorry, Jay,
I totally agree. I'm just going to repeat what both of you have already said. I mean, because it's the truth. It's like you are in charge of the image that you put out into the world. And if you want to be a 3D full-time Cinema 4D freelancer, then like you said, you have to show the world that's what you are. And if that means, completely redoing, wherever you're putting your work, you should only put Cinema 4D 3D stuff on there. You should only refer to yourself as a Cinema 4D 3D freelancer, because it's people will just take you. If you tell me, if your website, if I go to your website and it's just a bunch of motion design, After Effects work, I'm gonna think that's all I should hire you for. If you have nothing but like real flow liquid sims on your site, even though you're really good at doing design, I would never hire you for doing design because you didn't show me design. You showed me real flow liquid sims. So put up the work that you do, the work that you want to get hired for. And a lot of people, and that's what we're saying here, is like, do the work you want to be hired for. Well, I haven't gotten that much work yet. I'm new. I don't have the jobs. I don't have the depth in my portfolio. Doesn't matter. Make the work that you want to be hired for. You want to do 3D motion design and make a 3D chapstick commercial, go make that and put it up on your site. Then somebody will hire you to make something similar. That's the best way, and I think that's what everybody here is saying, is like, you just got to put the image, put the job on your site that you wish you would be hired for, and then eventually that job will come.
I'd even say, like, you even have to start mentally thinking of it differently. I'm picturing somebody doing an elevator pitch. Like, if you're in the elevator and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" and you go, "Well, I've been doing motion design and 2D After Effects for 20 years, but I'm thinking about getting into 3D." They're going to hire you for the 2D because that's what you sound like you're experienced in. Mm-hmm. If you go like, "Oh, I do 3D design, 3D animation, blah, blah, blah." But now they're thinking, "Oh, it's a 3D guy, not a 2D guy who's got delusions of 3D.
Delusions. I like that. I like the delusions.
It's a marketing problem. And really what I would stress for anybody making a demo reel or a site is to always remember that you're going to get hired for what you put on there. And I think some people treat their site and their Behance and all that stuff as a everything place where they did it, they got paid, and it has a logo on it, so I'm going to put it there. And I think early on you can maybe just put out everything, but as soon as you're starting to get to these details where you want to get hired for different stuff, you really have to be, thoughtful of what people find when they Google your name. And Google yourself. Like, go find what the language is, what people are confronted with when they Google you or go to your website or go to your Behance or whatever you send them to. And remember that you're in control of that message.
Absolutely. Great answers. Great answers. All right. I'm gonna break it up with a tech question that I actually cheated and had to look up the answer before the show because it did kind of hit me like, oh yeah, what do they do? And that question came from Gizmo Bearden on Twitter says, how about something on codecs? How do you guys pass stuff on to editors? And in particular, this person wanted to know about being on a PC, because if you're on a Mac and you're working with an editor, you're most likely rendering out a ProRes QuickTime. And that's all good and fine, and everybody's happy. Well, on PC, you can't render ProRes. And it's just this weird Apple Windows thing. So what do you do? And I cheated here. Because like I said, I didn't know the answer. I know my style and what I did, but I wanted to make sure it was right. So I hit up 2 editor friends before the show and got the answer. So I'm just going to quickly read them off. If you're on a PC and you're working with editors and you're not sure how to get them your footage, always ask them first how they would like it, because editors can be particular, as we all know. If they're working in Premiere, there's a lot more options. If they're working in Avid, there's not as many. So if you want to do ProRes, and that's definitely how they want it, you're going to have to get a program called FFmpeg, which is a open source program that is an encoder, but is a bit technical. It's only command line. So you're going to have to look at that and figure out how to make a ProRes based on that. If that doesn't work, you could use a codec that Avid developed to kind of compete with ProRes. I think it's called DNxHD. That's another codec that's pretty decent and very lossless. Otherwise, you could always use the tried and true animation codec, right, guys?
Oh baby, that's a big file there, buddy.
That's a big file. Okay, so that is if you're doing something tiny, and you want it uncompressed, and you don't have to worry about like FFmpeg and DNxHD and all these weird codecs. You can just do that, and they're going to be able to read it, but it's going to be big.
It's going to be a big transfer.
It's going to be a big Dropbox transfer. Okay, so the other thing that didn't really occur to me that kind of caught me off guard was like, okay, Premiere now will accept image sequences and actually handles them really well as long as they're not compressed. So if you do like a TIFF sequence or a DPX sequence or any sort of uncompressed image sequence, Premiere can actually handle that pretty well. So anyway, that's my little bit of advice on that. Do you guys have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I don't. It's been a while since I've worked with an editor, and yeah, you just ask the editor. That's such a great first answer. But yeah, I've actually heard of people having a Mac in their office just to compress. I forgot the name of it. ProRes. Yeah. And that being a big part of their process because the editor is so used to ProRes, they just have the Mac sitting there. They render out what they do, and then they run it through ProRes, and then it goes through.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like you don't think about it being a problem because you're just so wrapped up in production, and then you send one thing to your editor and they're like, what the hell is this? Like you can't send me this. I can't open it. I can't read it. It's too big. Whatever the issue is. That's why, and every editor that I've ever worked with always has a different approach to it, which is why it's always good to get their input first and not demand that they work to your specs, because ultimately it's not a big deal. It's gotten a lot easier. I mean, it used to be like when everybody was just on Avid or just on even Final Cut, there was a lot more hoops you had to jump through to get stuff into their system. But now Premiere, I mean, it's so easy now. It's pretty great. All right. Next question comes from Abel Chen. Ars, I'm going to screw that up. Wants to know, Nick, where the hell is the Beeple interview?
I'm glad you asked. And if you're the same person that said this on Twitter as well, hopefully I responded there. But it is coming. It is actually done being compressed, and it is making its way up to YouTube and should be out in the next month. So
tell everybody what that was. I mean, there's people out there that might not even know that you interviewed people.
Yeah, so at Half Res, which is a yearly motion design conference that we throw, Greyscalegorilla is a part of it. Chicago C4D and with Chris and Jack Bransfield, we all kind of come together once a year to invite all of the motion designers. At first it started just in Chicago, but it grew from there to people fly in from all over now. Who came from the furthest place this year? Do you guys remember? It was
I don't remember last year.
Italy or something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
some place.
I'm going off on a tangent, but this year or last year in 2016, Beeple joined us on stage, and we got to do this really cool interview with him where we got to ask all these questions we've always wanted to know from Beeple. At least I know, and I did. And I went around to my friends and on Twitter, and we collected all these questions. And he was so gracious to sit down with us for almost an hour and just go through his process and how he makes all this stuff and how he does it every day. So that interview was recorded, and it's going to be up. It looks like in March. So I know it's a little bit later than we at first thought, but slowly all the video footage and all the stuff will be up on the site around March. And I also just had the thought to put it as a part of the podcast. So for those of you who would rather walk around, like I do this all the time, I have more time where I'm away from a screen where I just want to listen to stuff. We're going to make that available in the podcast, so that if you're subscribed, you'll just get the Beeple interview somewhere around March. And the other thing I'll mention is the video. There was about a 10-minute chunk of video where the camera turned off, where we didn't get the video part of the interview, but we got the audio. So even if you watch the video version of Beeple's interview, the audio version is going to have like an extra 10 minutes of questions from the audience that we didn't get on video. So
that's great. I didn't know that you still had the audio. I thought we just lost it forever and you had to be there live.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. Once I thought about what to do with the audio, like, well, this would be perfect. So we'll kind of put the video out, and still the video is over half an hour of interview. And including, by the way, while we're talking about this, what's also going to be out in March is Chad's presentation about the past, present, and future of 3D animation. And so that'll be a part of it. Chris's tutorial on where he did a tutorial using Cinema 4D version 6.
Oh, yeah.
Instead,
Wow.
yeah, like how many years ago? It was from like 2000
Yeah,
or something.
20 years ago, or 17 years ago. Yeah.
As well as Nick and Eric from Run Kick Shout did a really cool talk. And for those of you asking questions about freelancing and stuff, you guys will like this. They did a talk about going from freelance to starting their own studio and some of the things that business-wise and perception-wise that they kind of went through in those in that area. So that'll all be out in March. That's a long answer to that question. But for those of you who want to be at the next Half Res, we're also going to be announcing tickets in March as well. So keep an eye open for that. If you guys want to join us, it's been growing every year, and it's so cool to see people, not only our Chicago friends show up, but more people from around the country and the world are showing up. So if you want to come hang out with, motion designers like yourself and just be in a room and learn from each other, this is that's what this place is turning into. So look for some tickets coming up in March. And as far as the people interview, look for that in March as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the half res thing is, I guess, I see this all the time on our Facebook and our Twitter. A lot of people work in different parts of the country that maybe don't have the amount of people needed to even start a user group. I want to say that half res is a great thing to come out to, because it's not really, you could go to FITC, you could go to OFF, you could go to all these conferences that are like days and days of classes and whatnot. But this is more of like a social party, if you will. Like you're going to see people talk about things that you're interested in, but you're also going to be just mingling all night. There's no rooms where people are separated in. It's not a classroom setting. It's like this great bar, giant, like, I don't know what is it like how'd you describe that space?
It's a music venue. So there's a bar in front, and
there you go. It's a music venue. So you're going to be walking around and mingling and drinking. So if you live in a part of the country that you're having a hard time getting your user group started up, think about coming out to half res, because it might just be that little bit of inspiration that you need for your year. You could get it in one night and a hell of a hangover if everything goes right.
I had a 2-day hangover from the last one.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you're going to meet a lot of people and get inspired, and it's a good time. And we gave out amazing prizes. In fact, if you're watching this on YouTube, behind me is one of the skateboards that we had made, and then this is like a sign that was hanging. So yeah, there's lots of fun prizes, and it's just a good time. All right, so that answers that. People's coming out soon. People will be happy to see and hear that. Anyway, okay, so
before we get going, I forgot.
That's right.
Just because I just recorded that intro and outro to that video with Beeple's interview, I brought this thing out, and so during the interview, I'll give this question away, I guess. But I asked Beeple like where he got the name, and he said he named him after this 80s toy that beeps at you. And literally, I don't have the batteries in him, but when you cover up his eyes and stuff, he beeps. This awesome like 70s synthesizer style beep. But even cooler, so Mike mentioned that on stage, and the week after Half Res, he sent me this Beeple
Your
doll.
very own Beeple.
My very own Beeple doll. I hug him every night before I go to bed. And check this out. It's got this sweet, like, early 80s kind of 70s style logo, Beeple logo. But I just want to show you guys this because look at it. It's a Beeple doll.
I had no idea.
If people were to design a doll, that's exactly the opposite of what I think his doll would look like, which is exactly, like I would expect it to be some naked thing with glowing eyes and a Nazi hat or something.
When this thing beeps when the lights go out, when you're leaving work at 9 o'clock at night, it actually is a little bit more spooky. So, a little bit more like a Beeple render.
That's hilarious.
So thanks, Mike.
Yeah, that's great. He should use that logo too. That's a killer logo.
It's a cool logo.
All right. So, we got another one here. Federico Garcia like the tutorial on takes, would like to see more workflow stuff, and wants to know, where do we go? Where do all of us go to get our inspiration? What portfolio sites, social networks, what places are we going to get inspiration? I'll start with, I'll go first, I guess.
Do it.
Make it easier. So for me, inspiration comes in the form of just about everything, really. Places that I actively seek things are, I use Feedly. I don't know if anybody out there knows what Feedly is, but it's like an RSS aggregator. It just kind of collects websites and puts them into one digestible kind of news strip for me. I've been using it for a long time. So my daily routine is I check just like world news, and that's just, so that I know what's going on in the world. And then I check my Feedly, which then pulls from all sorts of different places. And I have my Feedly organized into CG stuff and art stuff and film stuff. And that way I can kind of like, get inspired, see what's going on. So that's my major thing, is like having a place that I can then just dump links into, and it feeds me them every day. And then Pinterest actually has become a really big part of my inspiration workflow. Is like I'll jump on Pinterest and just go down some rabbit hole of, I start off looking for design inspiration, and I end up looking at like Lego robots for like 2 hours, getting inspired on that end and wanting to go make a cool Lego robot. So that's kind of like my two things. And then just, talking to people that I know and seeing what they're up to and having them share work with me. And hopefully, that kind of relationship will spark some inspiration too. All right, Chris, you go.
I'll second Pinterest. I've been using that for a few years now. It's pretty neat. And I really like kind of storing my own pins when you find the ones you want. It's just, I mainly use it for Dungeons and Dragons. Like I built these 2 gigantic boards with like thousands of images of just anything I could think of to just have random inspiration for doing Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, I don't have any other specific source. I spend a lot of time on YouTube and Reddit, and if I see something I like, and it's usually like an image of some sort, I'll just immediately save it into Pinterest, so I have it to track down again later. I used to have some feeds I liked, but a lot of the sites died, so I got to check out this Feedly.
Well, I mean, Feedly is just a thing. It's just like you have to feed it, the websites that you're into, and I think I can actually share. I'm looking right now. I think there's a way for me to do that. I'll look into it. If I can share it, look for it in the show notes on this, and I'll do my best.
Actually, yeah, and to be more specific, I use Reddit a lot. Like I'm on Reddit way too much. But on Reddit, I did do a lot of curating where I have a lot of like image-based things of like imaginary robots and different landscape things and different photography things. So I do have a good solid feed of like, people creating costumes and, everything from, world news to like awesome artwork. So another good resource. I use it so often that I don't even think of it as that'd be like just saying television. Like that's not specific enough, but a lot of people do not use Reddit.
Oxygen is my, what I really,
that's why I feel like Reddit.
I tried to get into Reddit, man, but there were so many trolls, man. And there's so many haters just hanging out there looking to squash stuff. And it just kind of turned me off of it.
I don't know that I get that vibe, but
maybe it was the channels I was hanging out in. Some questionable channels, perhaps.
Maybe.
Maybe I should just be more careful. Anyway, all right, Nick, what do you got?
I was thinking while you guys were talking, that question is always a tough one for me. It's like when people ask me the future of of design and stuff like that. It's like to me, it's a non-knowable question. And when I hear, it's like this: anything you're really into, and anything you're digging and want to dig deeper into, you don't have to wake up and inspire yourself to go do that. It's like a natural thing. Like you have this like urge to go learn something, so you just go start learning in it. You don't have to stop and go, well, I was really into that, but now I got to inspire myself to go get back into it. And it seems like it's almost like a weird question to me. So what I've been thinking of when people ask, how do you get inspired? It's I think of it like a really emotional question of like, I'm not into this today and it's kind of bumming me out. And how do I get my work done even though I'm not really digging it? You know what I mean? It comes from a different angle rather than like, what websites do you hang out on to be inspired? Because I don't think it works out that way. I don't think it works like if you don't want to do something, then you go to a website and now you do want to do something. I don't think that's not how my brain works. So when I think of inspiration, I think of like, first of all, taking a step back and deciding if you want to be doing this. You might be doing the wrong work if you're always constantly trying to need to inspire yourself to go do it. In other words, a professional, somebody that does this for a living can't rely on inspiration to get their work done. They have to go work. They have to go like look at the project, get it done on the hours that they're ready, and not necessarily wait for divine inspiration. So that's like my old man kind of worry about the word inspiration, which kind of worries me.
Really deep right there.
But on a more surface level, what actually does inspire me, what actually gets me in and working and moving stuff with my hands is almost always it's almost always remembering that it's another person on the other side of the screen that made that. That is no more of a person than I am. That is what inspires me. When I see something and I'm like, wow, that is really cool. Like I could never do that. That's when I get depressed. That's when I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not very good at this. And I'm not ever going to be as good as they are. But when I remember that they're just a person that put the work in, just like I could be the person that put the work in, that I need to get off whatever I need to get the heck off of these platforms that are inspiring me and actually go do the work and get better at what I want to do. That's when my feathers get ruffled and I'm like, I'm going to go make the coolest daily render in the whole world right now. So I don't know I don't want to like derail that question because I think it comes from a good, place. But for me, inspiration comes from seeing something that I'm like, that is awesome. And I want to learn how they did that. And I'm going to go figure it out. And I immediately close down wherever I am and I go either try to recreate it, right? Like that's the biggest thing that I learned from is recreating how other people's work to see how in the heck I would approach it and see if I could even do it technically. That is what inspires me. So the reason I don't like talking about this, even though I'm going on and on about it, is because I think you need to figure out, whoever's asking the question and whoever else over the next 50 years that is going to ask the question, how do you stay inspired? It's up to you. Like it's up to you to find the things and the situation and the coffee and the speakers and the window placed and the desk at the right angle to get your butt into gear and start doing the work that you like to do. And if you're not setting yourself up for that, then you're setting yourself up to like, if you have to do so much to get inspired, you may not be doing the right thing in the first place.
If I can interject on that, I think I agree with everything you're saying, but I feel like there's almost two different uses of the word inspiration here. It's almost like motivate. I think a lot of people say inspiration when they mean motivation. And so, at least the way I'm interpreting this, and, I would say nobody feel bad for doing like the stuff me and Chad were talking about, is what is a reliable source of just stuff that you see it and you're like, I want to make that. So it's not like I'm failing to make something. Like, how do I go make it? Or, how do I force myself to make it? And more like I'm at this thing. I got these books or this video series or whatever. And you're like, oh my goodness, look at that. I want to make it. Let me go figure out how to do it. And what are your reliable sources of finding something like that? And so Reddit and Pinterest are great for like, wow, that's cool. I wonder if I can do it in 3D. And I go and try and do it.
I think you're exact. I love that. And I definitely am not discouraging anything that you could do if it's going to a site or seeing other people's work or going to Pinterest. Anything that will get you in the mindset to go make something is the stuff that you could do. And so what I'm saying, I guess, is experiment with those things and find out what you do, because sometimes people go look on Pinterest and they're discouraged. Like a different type of person will look at all this awesome work on Pinterest and be discouraged to not go put the effort in because they are literally frustrated that
unattainable.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I can't ever make work like so and so. Therefore, I'm not going to do it at all, and now I'm going to close it all down and do what I, and not put the work in. So I guess what I'm saying is you have to find that for yourself, and it's hard for me to say. I could say maybe what works for me, but I always assume that everyone's got their own way of doing things. So I check out Reddit, and I have sites I go to and just kind of lurk around. Usually it's a one person thing. Lately it's been Aaron Draplin and his work, and how simple and how like 70s and 60s it is, and how like flat it is, and I've been really inspired by him. So I kind of like, when I feel like I need something to go off of, I'll start looking at his work, and it triggers something in me. So if that's helpful to others, but what I want you guys to really figure it out for yourself, because some people like to listen to music this way, and some people like to listen to music with words, and like it's that specific. That's how I view inspiration. It's as specific as the type of music you like to listen to. So it's hard to share those things.
No, I mean, that's a great answer. It's a totally fine answer. I think and if we start to take that question into more deeper levels that you started exploring there, it's really interesting, because then you need to start looking for inspiration, not in your peers, but maybe in completely other places. Like, I believe that if you want to have good original creative thoughts, then you need to have a really good broad amount of sensory input, and because all good ideas are your brain's ability to take different things that you've seen or experienced and connect them in new ways. And so if you don't give your brain enough material to work with, then you're not going to have good original thought-provoking ideas. But if you, instead of going to motionographer, you maybe go to an art museum and you look at the masters as opposed to who just created what commercial for Kentucky Fried Chicken, you're going to get better ideas coming to your head just by broadening that door a little bit and looking outside of the norm for your inspiration, and just feeding your brain subliminally all of this great classic work, whether it's film or sculpture or painting or art or even science. That vast amount of input is going to give you different ideas on how to approach creative work, writing. Everything is just going to come with more experience, comes more ideas. So that's why I think that question is interesting. It can kind of go like, well, what websites do you go to look for cool stuff? And I go to here and I go to there and I go to there. But more than that, I think what I liked about your answer, Nick, is that it's about that, and it's also about something more. It's about asking yourself what really gets you out of bed, and how do you give yourself more of that? And that's cool, man. I like that. All right,
man. I like this Q&A thing. I'm digging this. Hey, but by the way, if you're listening and you'd like us to answer these questions, don't forget, we're going to try this live show out Monday the 13th of February. And also, in general, drop a question in the comments, either on our blog post or in YouTube. And I think we should at least maybe make this even a segment where we try to answer at least one or two every week. And
yeah, it is cool.
Thinking, like on the fly, thinking and discussing what these questions even mean sometimes. It's kind of cool. I like this stuff.
All right. Well, we're going to break it up, because it seems like we get a lot of the questions that I've gotten are like really kind of deep questions, like sort of like that last one wasn't super deep, but deeper than most, and then technical questions. So I'm gonna hit you with a technical question now. A lot of people, I think, are with the render wars, which we didn't even get to the render war update yet, which we will. What's the deal? Flavio Denise wants to know what physical renderer can't do that other render engines can. And I think the deeper question there is like, why should I care about third-party rendering? What is it that I can't do in physical? And I'm gonna send that question to Nick to start off.
Whoa, man. So for me, I've only used Physical and Arnold recently. Chad's been showing me a little bit more Arnold, and I don't know the technical limitations of like once you want to do this one specific thing, then you just can't, and you have to go use this other renderer. I tend to think of it as a mostly a speed issue, so and a money issue. So Physical is, it comes with Cinema 4D. So you got that huge check mark there. You already can run it. You could also, if you have a studio version of Cinema 4D, install a render node on any machine you own locally and do a team render, which we have a recent tutorial about that if you want to see how to set that up. So to me, Physical has a lot of nice checkboxes because it's built in, it's standard, it's part of the software, and it's really a pretty good renderer as far as visually. If you know what you're doing with that renderer and you avoid some of the pitfalls, like some of the reflectance defaults and some of the weirdness that comes with Physical renderer, it's actually a very, very pretty renderer, and in some cases can approach Arnold and Octane style rendering. Take a look at Rick Lunsko's stuff that we just posted on Instagram. Rick helped us out and made some renders for our daily render series over on Instagram, and he uses all Physical and HDRI, some from our some of our upcoming packs, by the way. So go take a look at his work and know that all of that stuff came from Physical render. I think it looks pretty good. So what I would say is, if you're not running into limitations, then you shouldn't even be worrying about why you need to change and all that stuff. So for me, if you have a client that needs this turned around and you need 2 minutes of animation turned around by tomorrow, and you do that a lot, you may want to look at a different renderer that renders faster. Or, for example, if you, another reason to do it is because that's what people around you are using. So you may want to just be compliant with other freelancers around you and understand that they can hire you and you can work in their system and not only with one system. So to me, it's about expanding your knowledge. It's about knowing the limitations and then jumping into it. Instead, what I see is a lot of people thinking that they need Octane or they need Arnold right now to make good looking stuff. So I don't know. I'm a little all over the place.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I agree. I think Physical is.
Wait, Chad. I want to go before you because you're the expert. So if you go, I'll have nothing to say.
I like that.
I love it. All right, you go.
I have spent virtually no time in the third-party renderers, but I see the images coming out of them, and so it more turns into, for me, and I can list the things that Cinema's just really slow at, and it turns into a series of checkboxes. So like subsurface scattering, first of all, if you use any one of these things, it's not that big of a hit. But as soon as you start layering up a couple of them, and even, a big thing is blurry reflection. One layer of blurry reflection does not take that long. But a blurry reflection, reflecting a blurry reflection, that takes a long time. And then, blurry reflection, blurry refraction. Blurry refraction will get you every time. Caustics take a really long time. And as soon as you get to like really micro detail and any sub-poly displacement, those can take a really long time. And when I see a lot of the renders from these, the third-party render engines, you can see where they're just cranking certain things of this like out quickly, like subsurface scattering in Cinema, totally doable. But it's such a ubiquitous part of almost every render, I think, that like comes out of Octane, that like I haven't used Octane, but my assumption is it's pretty fast in Octane. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it in every render. Meanwhile, it's slow in Cinema, so you don't see it that often. So it does turn into like for me. It is.
You want to know what a renderer is good at? Look at what most people are using it on Instagram for.
Yeah, check out some daily renders, and that's what that render engine's good at. Okay, now to you, Chad.
Sorry. Well, no, that's a really good point. I just, I think you guys summed it up. There's really not much I would add to this other than I think, is Physical capable? Yes. Is it fast? No. How do you know when you're ready to try out a third-party renderer? You'll know when you start to do work that you start to get frustrated by either the lack of features, the lack of speed, you'll know when it's time to start looking in other places. And maybe you won't. And if you're not, and don't make the investment into GPU rendering or Arnold if you don't need to. Like, why? Like, don't think that just because everybody's on Octane that you need to go out and buy 4 cards and become an Octane expert if that's not what you're interested in, if that's not what you're doing for your job. I agree with Nick. If you want to be compliant with other artists, you're a freelancer, maybe you're a part of a team sometimes and they're using Arnold, then yes, you should know Arnold and you should probably figure out a way to get it. I think that it's one of those things, like, you can outgrow physical really fast, or you can continue to use it forever. It really depends on the work that you're doing. When I first opened up cinema, I was like, okay, I'm going to check out physical and see what it's all about. And I remember I was doing like a car thing and I got really pretty far in it. And I was like, wow, this is really good. It looks great. I was getting pretty decent render times, although I had kept everything pretty low because I wanted that speed of interaction. And then once I started adding all the final bells and whistles, the glossy reflections, the cleaner shadows, the GI, and everything that I needed to make it final quality, the render time just went through the roof. And I thought, well, okay, so it's not going to do what I needed to do for a final quality output of this caliber that I had in my head. So let me look at Arnold, let me look at Octane and those things. But yeah, it's really a personal decision, and that sounds really cheesy, but it is, because you have to ask yourself, what kind of work do you want to do? What kind of work do you think you're going to be doing in a year? Is this doing what you need it to do? Great. If jumping into GPU rendering means that you're going to have to buy completely new hardware, then you had better make sure that that's what you want and need, because it's an investment. Like, it's not something that Arnold, is not cheap either, but to buy like, if you're going from Mac to PC just because you want to get onto let's say Octane, that's a big investment. So not saying that you shouldn't do it if that's where your job is headed and that's where your work's headed, but just be cautious, and don't diss physical's ability to make pretty pictures, because it can make pretty pictures. It just takes longer.
Yeah, what I would this might be an outdated analogy, but I would think of it like what video game system you would want to get. So 10 years ago, I guess now, technically speed wise and chip wise and graphics wise, the Nintendo Wii was like not very capable, but the games were really fun and your family could all enjoy it, and you could like play it for 15 minutes in in between renders and then go back to work, and it was really like easy to use. Then the hardcore gamers would want to play Halo or Call of Duty, so they would need an Xbox, right? You get my analogy. I don't have to continue it. There is no right answer. It is all dependent on what you want to do with it and what your needs are. So think of it like that. Like, it's not this one's better than this one. It's all dependent on what you were working on, what your team's working on, what might be big in your city where you work. Like, if you're a freelancer, that to bring it back there. So there is no right answer. That's why it's such a hard conversation to have.
It is a really hard one, man, because I get asked that all the time, because the whole rendering thing, it's kind of a big topic right now, and people are like, well, they'll be like, I noticed you used Arnold for this and not Octane. Do you want to, like, why is that? And I'll be like, because first of all, I use whatever tool is right for the job. And I don't take sides based on, whatever brand loyalty crap you want to talk about. But I basically, whatever renderer I choose, it's because it was the right tool for the job that I was doing. And I'm not one to, and that's why I know so many different tools, is because I don't like using things that aren't a good fit for the job that I'm working on. And so I'll find something that's a better fit. I'll learn it just because it's a better fit. So yeah, you really got to kind of evaluate what you're working on and figure out what is the right tool. Just because your friend is using Octane making these really awesome subsurface balls, like, does that mean that you need it when all you're doing is rendering out, products from, some factory or something? Probably not. So yeah, good questions to ask yourself, I guess. All right, moving on. Here's one. Here's one for Chris. Let me see. Where was it? I had it here. Okay, this person wants to know, can they use HDRI link with Signal? And what would be like a typical use case for that?
I can't. There's only one parameter in link, and it's the HDR you're feeding it. So I don't think so. I don't think there's any compatibility between the two. I mean, you could link that parameter, but it wouldn't do anything.
No.
So yeah, I don't think that there's any reason to do that because we just have that selection.
Well, to say the obvious, I'll say they are compatible, which means you could use them both together in the same scene.
Oh yeah.
You could light your scene with HDRI link and then animate any parameter, including HDRI link with Signal. So in that case, yes. But in the practice,
thank you for the context there.
Yeah,
I was getting specific. Specifically, if you're using an HDRI link tag and a Signal tag, you can't use link to drive. You can't use Signal to drive HDRI link because there's nothing really to drive. But you could be driving the brightness parameter on your HDR sky element or whatever the case is.
Yeah,
right.
Signal's tough, and I think actually, Chad, can you do us a favor? Anytime I try to describe Signal, I come at it from an After Effects perspective and talk about expressions and talk about the wiggle expression and all that stuff. Can you seem to have a better grasp on Signal than a lot of people, especially when I try to talk about it. I talk in circles sometimes, but it's it's a thing I use all the time, and I know you've been using it a lot. Can you explain Signal in like a better way than I can?
You're putting me on the spot here, dude.
Please.
All right. So when you think about Signal, think about it as, imagine every parameter in Cinema 4D, every slider, everything you could possibly animate. What if you could connect that to a little engine that would run and drive that parameter for you? So let's say you wanted to have a ball bouncing up and down forever and ever and ever. You don't have to set a keyframe. You literally would just take the Y of that little ball's position and drag that onto Signal. And now you've told Signal, hey, dude, you're going to drive this now. Have fun. And then you dive into your Signal settings and you either make it go up and down. You make it, you say, how many frames do you want that to happen? It's literally like you're building a little engine that's going to drive parameters, and it can drive any parameter, which is really why I like it so much. I think a lot of people think, well, is it only for like, making looping, abstract stuff? No, it's not. Actually, I've used it I put it on cameras to add camera wiggle. I've used it on lights to make lights flicker on and off. It's literally kind of this open plugin that I think a lot of people don't understand it because it is so big and kind of blobby. Like what is it? Like, just think about it like that. It's a thing that's going to drive a parameter for you, and it does it completely procedurally. So you can edit it on the fly. You can change the duration. You could have 10 of them. And Chris made some cool scripts that allow you to adjust multiple Signal tags at the same time. Yeah. Is that good?
Dude, I guess
I like
you nailed it. Love it. It's a little animation engine.
It is, and for those of you from the slightly more technical side, it is a procedural animation tool, and it literally, if you like procedural, the idea of not having to, if you like the idea of a system and not hand keying something, then this is for you, because it's not something that you're going to animate a character with, because the character animation takes, like, got to go in there by hand and make it do all the stuff. But for everything else, like, it's really cool because you can layer up Signal to do some really interesting things, and then you can grab all of them and change the duration. And it's useful both in like After Effects kind of MoGraphy stuff, but it's equally, I think, as useful in more of like a visual effects way for like layering up secondary animation. A lot of people don't like understand that like to make something look real, it's not just about moving something from A to B, but also giving it secondary animation, which is oftentimes really subjective and really hard to do in a natural way. So like, let's say moving your camera is just panning, you know, we're just going to pan the camera from left to right. You could just animate the lamest keyframe you want. It could just literally be like a default ease keyframe of like panning left to panning right, then throwing a signal tag on top of it and adding just a little bit of that like secondary wobble and noise to just really bring your stuff to that like next level of realism.
Awesome. Dude, see, this is good. Can you make a video for the Signal page now?
We'll just cut that out. Put
that
anyway. Okay. Well,
all right. We have more questions.
Yeah, we have a couple more. This one's kind of an interesting one because it's something that I'm always looking for advice on, because I don't ever feel like I have this part of the whole our world right, which is Boris Blues wants to know. I would love to hear Nick's opinion on the top of organizing renders, photos, videos, archiving, indexing, hard drives, cloud storage, all that stuff.
I want to add to that. I'm curious, Nick, how you will, because I think there's the rant version, and then there's there's what it should be, and then what you actually do. Because I know you have very strong opinions on that.
I have actual. I'll give you the rundown. This has been true for about 10 years now. I will have a my work drive with all the software on it is the fastest drive I could get my hands on. Right now, it's a SD drive. My render drive is usually a little bit bigger, and right now it's an external drive, and I try to keep that as large as I can. Right now, it's a 3 terabyte drive. I use Backblaze to back up daily. Backblaze is online backup, so they trickle everything I put on my computer slowly goes up to their servers at Backblaze, so that if my computer explodes right now, that I can go call Backblaze or email them on a friend's computer and say, hey, send me a drive of everything. And then they actually will send it to you or allow you to re-download it. That's my basic day-to-day backup. I also use Time Machine, which also gives me a local backup. I've had bad luck with hard drives, so I back up everything. My local machine is backed up, everything here, including my second external drive, which is called my media drive. My media drive and everything on this computer is every 2 hours or so backed up to Time Machine, which is also a hard drive sitting here. So that, again, if my computer explodes, I don't have to call Backblaze. Actually, if my computer explodes, I have a backup here. If my office explodes and I lose those backup drives, then I could call Backblaze. When these drives get full, when my media drive gets full, which it is right now because podcasts, we record video, all these tutorials, sometimes they're like 50 gig screen flow files. This fills up pretty fast. What I do is I have what I call, a lot of people call them, is a hard drive toaster. So this is a little device that is basically an external casing for a regular hard drive that you could just plug raw hard drives into, like it's a piece of toast in a toaster. It mounts on your desktop, and then you could basically buy super inexpensive raw drives from, I just use Amazon, get 2-3 terabyte drives, whatever the price point is. You don't have to get the super expensive ones, whatever ones are pretty cheap. So every time this drive fills up, which is a 3 terabyte drive, I'll buy a 3 terabyte Amazon. I'll actually buy 2 of those. I'll buy 2 3 terabyte external, or not external, just raw drives. I plug them into the toaster. Then I go through an entire process of going through my media drive and I don't get rid of them. I make an archive folder, so that I call it archive February 2017. Then I go through, it's usually about a half a day process. I go through all these old files that I've been not using, old YouTube thumbnail files, anything that makes sense, old projects that I'm finished with. And I'm thinking now of the freelancers out there, projects that you're finished with that you don't think the client's going to come back anytime soon. Archive it all. Put it in the archive folder. Don't drag it directly to the drive yet. Just move it to the archive folder, which means it'll transfer faster. You're not waiting on a transfer. It's just organizing it into archive. And then fill that up until it's 2 or 3 terabytes. put your toaster in, then drag that whole folder onto the new drive. So you're dragging it all to the external raw drive there. Wait for the backup. That could take a day sometimes, depending on transfer speeds. It could take a long time. And then do that twice. So now I have 2 backups of my external on those raw drives. I also buy little cases that are like old school Blockbuster VHS cases, but for hard drives. I buy those. I write directly on them what the date was. And then I also look at some of the main projects that are inside of it. For us, maybe it's plugins or maybe it's a tutorial that we did. I write down a short list of roughly what's on it. Then I also use a program called Media Catalog.
Wow, this is getting really complex.
Hey, you asked me for the real deal. And this is really, really serious. I take this very seriously because I've lost stuff in the past and I've lost work that I've done, and it's heartbreaking. Then I use Media Catalog. What Media Catalog does is it scrapes your hard drive, which is now in the toaster. It scrapes that drive and it gets every file name and every folder and it puts it in this little catalog. What that allows me to do is once I eject these 2 raw drives now that have all these archives on it out of my computer, it allows me to open up Media Catalog and now search for old things, and it will tell me what drive it's on. So it's almost like my library. If I want to figure out where the Cherry 7-Up renders are from 10 years ago, or however long it's been, 8 years ago, I can go type in Cherry 7-Up. It'll pull up all the hard drives that have the Cherry 7-Up. I could go to my wall. I could grab that hard drive and get it. The last thing, and then I'll shut up. The reason I make 2 copies is one stays local. What I mean by local is at my office, so that if I need to get that file, I could go to Media Catalog, find it, and then if you're a freelancer, you could go type that project in that you need to work on now, or a client came back 4 years ago, they want an update. You could go now to your wall of hard drives, pick out a copy, plug it in your toaster, upload it back to your working drive, and start working. The reason I make 2 is one of them stays here and one of them goes home. That is my ultimate backup plan, because if the building burns down, either my home burns down or the office burns down, I still have a copy that I could go use and find, and I could back up and replace.
Wow, that is, you have really been burned.
I was heartbroken. Like I had like
I can tell like this entire like that's the most elaborate process I think I've ever heard. And I know that probably came from you lost some major thing, right?
Took a very, very, very big loss, and it came from a Drobo, and I still don't trust Drobo. I think they're better these days, but early on when Drobo was new, I got one of their robots that they promised would keep everything super backed up and ready to go, and I ended up losing about 4 terabytes of stuff, and yeah, I mean it's heartbreaking. So I take it very seriously, especially with business. If you're a freelancer, be sure you take it seriously. And none of this is expensive. Backblaze is $6 a month, I think, something like that. These hard drives are raw. Like what's a terabyte even cost now? $20 a terabyte? You know, like you can get such hard drives so cheap now. These cases are $1 a piece. And really what it takes is every 6 months or so, I'll go through this process. I'm coming up on one really soon. I'm starting to drag old projects into my archive, knowing that it's that my media drive's filling up. I'm going to go through that whole process and then have it all backed up. So I do take it very seriously. Sorry for the long rant, but I know people have asked me in the past and I say it's complicated and I don't talk about it, but there it is. If you guys have any more questions, you can bug me offline or on Twitter, and maybe I'll break this down if you guys are interested.
Well, all I have to say after that is damn. You know, like I feel totally like I am exposed. Like at any moment, I'm gonna be. I will have lost everything. I'm not nearly that safe.
Like I said, I've been very, I don't use this word very often, but I've been blessed. Like I've had good luck in my life and my health and my career and all these things, but hard drives have it out to get me. They have,
obviously
I've had more than one problem with hard drives. And this is even with trying to back things up, getting things like Drobo, which is supposed to be double redundant and all this stuff. So I've had problems with hard drives, and what I would say is it's I recommend at least giving some sort of worry about this because this is your livelihood and it's all digital and it's all bits.
Yeah.
And
I'm not trying to tease you saying that it's not. It's definitely. You have a system that is far safer than most, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean that you do you know, like that's.
I go overboard for sure, but I hope it at least scares somebody out there to at least go get Backblaze. Go get Backblaze, install it, pay the $6 because it'll literally take everything on not just your computer, but all your external drives and put it up in the cloud. And I know some of you have brands and stuff that you can't do that with, and I understand. But if you have the ability to scrape your computer, let them deal with it, it is the cheapest, like comfortable breath I could take every day is looking up at this Backblaze icon and they go, got it. Remaining files, 0 out of 0. That means everything right here is up in their world and they're taking care of it. If you do just that, I'd be much happier.
I don't use Backblaze. First time I've ever actually heard of that one. I use CrashPlan, which sounds like the exact same product where it nightly analyzes your system and whatever's changed, it uploads and they'll send you a drive if it all goes to hell, or you can download the backup or whatever. I highly recommend doing those as well. And I'm not nearly as organized in that respect. Like usually my hard drives I've got 2 internal SSDs. They're both 500 gigs. So one of them is like a system drive and the other one is like my working drive. So whatever job I'm currently working on is on the working SSD. When that job, project, whatever gets finished, I put it in 2 places. It's going to get archived to my Google Drive, which I pay for a terabyte of storage on Google Drive and a terabyte of storage on Dropbox. Dropbox I tend to just use for sharing stuff with other people, GSG stuff. It's more of like, I don't think of it as like safe storage. My Google Drive, however, because I don't sync that, it's literally I upload and forget about it. That's my, I put it up there when I archive the job or project. And then I also put it on an external USB 3 drive, which is similar to your toaster drive, only I just find whoever's selling them the cheapest that week. And I get like a 500 gig USB 3 drive, and then I just label it and throw it in the back. So it's triple redundancy. I don't have the I don't take a copy home. I work from home, so I guess if everything went to hell here, I would just get it from CrashPlan. But I don't have like a system other than sometimes what I'll do instead of zipping it before I put it on Google Drive is I'll just like literally leave it, structurally how it is. So that way I can use Google Drive search functions because Google Drive has really great search. It's Google. So you can like search for just about anything if it's up on your Google Drive. So yeah, I mean, again, I guess the 2 things that we have in common is like the CrashPlan and Backblaze. Chris, what do you rocking?
I don't have anything to add to that. A lot of my stuff is inherited from Nick's system. I'll just add that to anybody listening, probably 98% of you have been meaning to back something up and haven't done it. So go do that right now, or as soon as you get to work, or as soon as you get home, go do that backup.
Do it.
I know you've been meaning to, and you haven't had time. Go do it.
There's a saying: 3 is 2, 2 is 1, 1 is 0. If you have one of anything, you might as well not have it because it could go away. So don't. If it's important to you, if you have files, and you know what, work, that's important too. But if you have, I'm thinking of people out there that might have family photos of their kid growing up. You just dumped all these, all these digital SLR files on your computer somewhere and you kind of shared them. You don't really have a backup. Consider at least getting a time machine if you're on a Mac and Backblaze. Don't go through the heartbreak that I went through.
Yeah, I mean, on a consumer side of this, I see so many people dealing with a problem, and that problem is they bought a 16 gig iPhone.
Oh my God,
and
heartbreaking.
They are out of space. They, who would want to pay for Apple's cloud? I mean, it's stupid. Like, it's ridiculously expensive. I'm going to solve everybody's problem right now. If you haven't already heard of this, you probably have. But you can get Google Photos for your iPhone. And what that's going to do is it's going to back up all of the photos on your iPhone to your Google Cloud, which is, if you already have a Gmail account, you've already got it. and it will allow you to, now they're not going to be one-to-one. If you have a phone that takes ridiculously high resolution pictures, I think it's slightly smaller when it gets backed up to the cloud, but it's free. You're not paying a dime for this. You can actually right now go to your iPhone, download this app, upload all the photos on your iPhone, and then say clean, I think it's like clean my phone or something like that. And the app will say, okay, I've already backed up all these photos. We're good to delete these off your phone. And boom, you just like got half your storage back on your phone in, however long it takes you to upload. I tell people about that all the time because they're just like, it's like this, I feel like there's a whole lot of people out there that just like fill up their phones and don't know what to do, because getting stuff, and back when I used an iPhone, that was my biggest complaint, was getting stuff off of the iPhone was such a pain in the ass that it would frustrate the hell out of me. And I never liked to do the whole, what do they call the syncing thing?
Backup,
the iTunes thing. Hated that. So anyway, that I can't stress that enough. Like, try that out and clean up some space off your phone, because
you want to see heartbreak. Go to the Apple store in your town and watch as parent after parent after parent come in with a phone that they dropped in the lake or the bathtub, and say, "Hey, I need a new phone. Really sorry." And they slowly realize that everything on there, all their photos from all their vacations for the last 2-3 years that they never backed up, is now gone forever.
Yep.
And it's something I think we all need that moment, maybe at Thanksgiving, where we need to say, "Hey, everybody, like, I give thanks for this." And then also, is everybody backed up this year? Like, this is a real serious problem here. Yeah, good question though. We should have like we could break this down. That's like a whole boring podcast we could do.
Speaking of that, we are running long already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Q&A, dude. I'll bring, if you're listening and you have a question, put it in the comments. We would love that. Or Twitter. Should we have like a way to have people ask questions for the podcast?
Well, what you should do right
hashtag?
now, you should just get ready for the live one next week and show up in the chat room there to ask those questions.
Yeah, I think if you can't tune in live, or you just are too busy, we totally get that. And if you have a great question you want to ask, I think the best place to do that is, I started a little bit of a thread on our Facebook page, and I'll be checking that before next week's live show. Also, Twitter is good, but make sure you hit us, maybe before the show, not today, because it'll probably get just lost in the feed. But yeah, or the comments of this podcast would be good. There's a million ways to get in touch with us.
You guys know how to get a hold of us. Put it somewhere. We put it on the list.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's pretty much all we had for this week's podcast. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in, checking us out. As always, make sure you hit the old like button if you're watching us on YouTube, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you're listening to us on iTunes, what's the deal? If we get reviewed, it puts us in a better place. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I mean, iTunes, it's all algorithms these days, right? But your reviews not only make us smile, but it also helps iTunes understand that people are listening and enjoying this this podcast. So yeah, if you're listening through iTunes, or even if it's through Overcast or anything that uses iTunes, we'd love a review, and make it honest. We want to hear how we're doing, so I appreciate it.
You don't like my hat? Go ahead, tell me.
Dude, your hat, actually, when you're tightening the corner, it keeps making me think of that painting, The Girl with Pearl, where she's wearing that blue hat. I know, I'm not even joking. I Googled that image earlier.
Oh my God. I think Chris
I'll put that in the show notes.
Chris has a crush on me, and I think that's what we've learned here.
I think it's when you're really tightening the corner wearing a hat, then you're reminding me of a young girl with a giant pearl in her ear.
Well, I'm glad I can do that for you, Chris. Anything to help you out.
It's not that similar, but it did make me think of it.
Well, with that, we will wrap things up and see you next week live once again, 12 p.m. Central. Come hang out with us and get those questions ready. And yeah, thanks guys for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Have a great week.
Bye.